Good morning, everybody. I'm Matthew Alvarez for RSBN Live. Thanks so much for streaming in bright and early for those of you out there on the East Coast and also mainly on the West Coast, of course. Only 5:22 in the morning, but at 8:30 Eastern, Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller will be holding a press conference talking about restoring common sense in America. It's something, obviously, we talk about a lot here at the network, but so does President Trump. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is common sense, the key to success for making America great again. So that press conference to start in about 8 minutes. From what I can tell right there in that live vantage point, I don't know if it'll start right at 8:30, but we'll see. I mean, other things have happened. I mean, think about it. You've got a lot of the press getting ready to sit down there and get ready for this live press event. So today is an RSBN triple header. So that means 3 live events, all on this May 1st, 2025. Happy May to you. Thanks so much for joining us once again here at the network. So we'll start out our coverage today with the press briefing. First of all, it's going to be great to hear from Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller, 2 amazing, effective communicators of the messaging of the truth of what's happening in our country. If the mainstream media wasn't around, it would be a lot easier to just kind of navigate all of this because they just try and confuse or lie or spin everything. So maybe we wouldn't need as many press conferences, but you got to set the record straight. And that's what conservative media does as well. And it's also great to see, of course, there from the White House, Karoline Leavitt, who also holds new media briefings at the White House on top of these traditional briefings. There's so many new media outlets or influencers or podcasters or networks that I guess doesn't just fit in that room because a lot of the traditional media, they have their seats there. We'll see if there's a seating chart change. But also, there's only a sliver of conservative media to the side of the room there. So it's already a packed house. Then there's that one new media seat. But then now there's a whole new media press conference. So there's really 2 press conferences going on for all of the media that is accessing the White House. So great to see that historic truth and transparency once again by the White House, by the president, by the White House press secretary. And again, today, Stephen Miller will join her. And Stephen Miller, obviously a rock star. We've been talking a lot about Stephen, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff of Policy. He was on stage just the other day in Michigan. We'll throw to that soundbite in just a bit. Also, there's a fun video that we're going to show you from President Trump just the other night on the stage as well. After his speech, you might know the Trump dance, of course. Well, it's May 1st, so why not play it a little bit later in the broadcast? All right, so again, 3 live events. The second live event will be starting at 10 a.m. Eastern time for the National Day of Prayer, which will be at the White House Rose Garden. So that will be a separate stream. Then a bit later, as long as there's no breaking news or developing news, we'll have 3 p.m. live coverage for something that's quite awesome. It's going to be President Trump's commencement speech at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. RSBN host Robert McNeely bringing us live coverage from Alabama. Great coverage about to happen because think about it, you've got all these great college kids that are seniors graduating. Many people, of course, in Alabama, supporters of President Trump. It will be rally-like vibes there, I'm sure, tonight. So President Trump will speak in the evening, but we'll have a preview and pre-show coverage there starting at 3 Eastern. So a trifecta of coverage here at Right Side. Go ahead and share this with your friends and your family as another day of a lot going on, as it is 8:26 Eastern time, and we will be seeing, again, Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller there at the White House. All right, so let's go to the just the other night on Tuesday, if you remember, that great speech there by President Trump. He brought up Stephen Miller. I believe we have that video. Director, are we ready to rock and roll on that? Okay, so we're about to get that video for Stephen Miller when he was on stage. We played it a few times this week, but still, at the end of the day, you're about to see him there at the podium. And we'll be showing you the video from the other night at the podium. On top of that, there's another video we'll be playing for you in just a second. But here's Stephen Miller from Tuesday night.
There is nobody smarter or tougher than Stephen Miller. Stephen, say a couple. Who's enjoying 100 golden days of America? President Trump has achieved the most secure border in American history. He's fighting violent crime. He's fighting the drug cartels. He's cutting your taxes. He's cutting wasteful spending. He's draining the swamp. He's standing up to the radical left. He's standing up to the communists, and he's making America stronger than it's ever been. President Trump will never stop fighting for you, your children, and your family, and President Trump will make sure that in this country, not illegal aliens, not criminals, not gangbangers, but American citizens come first, last, and always. Thank you. And thank you, President Trump, for being the greatest president in American history.
And so, as you guys know, not only at that speech the other night, I mean, Stephen has been doing that kind of speech throughout all of those campaign rallies that you've seen over the past year. So we'll be seeing him again there in just a minute. That's the door to the other part of the West Wing. Of course, Karoline Leavitt and her team, they usually pray right before they come out. She'll come out, and then Stephen Miller will be joining her for this press conference. This is all about restoring common sense in America. I mean, what else is there to say? I don't need to share rocket science. I don't even know rocket science. I mean, at the end of the day, it's common sense to have a safer country or healthier country, our freedoms intact, our constitutional rights intact, and a strong military. And one that President Trump said, so strong, how great would it be that we wouldn't even have to use it, being that strong. Talk about peace through strength personified. That's what we would have, and what we do have, as we have a strengthening military. If you remember that speech the other night in Michigan with the National Guard talking about a number of the aircraft that were getting retired, but there were 21 new aircraft, and the National Guardsmen and women behind President Trump were cheering, clapping, very happy about that. So many great advancements happening at this unprecedented White House, which calls for unprecedented reporting as well, common sense reporting, maybe ways that we're not used to seeing or hearing it, because we have someone that has really broken through all of the nonsense that is Donald J. Trump. As you guys know, if it wasn't for President Trump, would there be as much of a conservative media? Would there be so much knowledge about calling out the fake news? Would there be any of that? Thanks be to God for Rush Limbaugh and being the great king of conservative media of his time, and then on top of that, getting that Congressional Medal of Freedom back in the day. If you remember, what an amazing moment that was in President Trump's first administration. But now we see, over the years, everybody understanding what fake news is, and that's just the label that the fake news is going to have to live with until they either change their ways or they kind of, maybe sell off the corporate media aspect of it and just give up, because the people are aware. And that's the thing that the media really hates, I think, and what the leftists, like only the few that are trying to control the masses, they absolutely hate the fact that people are awake, that you are awake, that you understand that they've been acting like something's true, but that's the point. That's why it's called fake. They've been looking the part, sounding the part, reporting the part, that this is the news. It's a bunch of crap. So it's great to see a whole new side of things. That's why it's called the new media, because that's actually, I didn't really like that term, new media. I'm like, well, no, we've been media, we're conservative media, but it's the same thing. And it's true. There is a new media happening in this country, and it's great to be part of it in conservative media, which is the same difference, right? So it's awesome to see all these great exploits happening there at the White House. We're going to see Karoline Leavitt any minute from now, and Stephen Miller. So this is going to be quite an awesome press conference. I don't care. Am I tired? I'm tired. I'm definitely tired. We had that coverage last night from the White House exclusive that we had, and we have, my wife and I, a 7-month-old baby. But you know what? Who cares about, in the sense of being tired or not? At the end of the day, for our country, for our family, for our freedom, it's all worth it. Let's go to something that's quite fun as we await Karoline Leavitt. It's maybe a 30-second video. Let's just say this. Happy May 1st, America. It's Thursday, May 1st. Friday Eve, of course, we have a triple header here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We'll tell you about those live events coming up. Let's go to Michigan on Tuesday night. Watch this.
Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, you're in a new town, there's no need to be unhappy. Young man, there's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. It's fun to
Well, if you're not awake now, we've been playing some pretty rowdy situations or rowdy scenes from Michigan Tuesday night. I started out with Stephen Miller's great speech when President Trump brought him up on stage. And then a little bit of the Trump dance. Why not, right? So, again, May 1st, we have a RSBN triple header today. We'll be live at 10 a.m. on a separate stream as it's National Day of Prayer. So there's a White House event at the Rose Garden. We have a number of pastors lined up to join us for that broadcast. And then later today, as long as there's no breaking news from after that prayer event until 3 o'clock Eastern, we'll be live at the University of Alabama. Robert McNeely will be there as we get ready to hear from President Trump. What I'm looking forward to tonight is President Trump's speech. However, this is a commencement speech. Those are a bit different than a rally speech or a presidential speech in some ways, of like we heard the other night in Michigan. Really looking forward to hearing that insight from President Trump and just seeing the crowd's reaction there at the University of Alabama. I believe you're going to hear a roar of a crowd. It's going to be rally-like vibes tonight in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, but also what's awesome is that we're going to see Robert McNeely there along with people that are waiting in line or at the event. And so it's going to have that rally feel. So that coverage starts at 3 o'clock Eastern. So again, let's review. Getting ready for Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller to talk about common sense being restored in America. And then at 10 a.m., a different stream for the National Day of Prayer. President Trump will be speaking there at the Rose Garden. And then, of course, tonight at the University of Alabama. So 10 a.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Eastern are our next two live streams, 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. If there are any changes to those times, just follow us, of course, on Truth Social, X, Rumble, YouTube, all over the place. Getter, our website, and we'll be sure to keep you posted on that. But again, an RSBN triple header. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Thanks again for streaming in on this Thursday, May 1st. Hope you're ready to have a nice weekend coming up. We're getting there slowly. But it's been quite the week of winning and quite the past 100 days of accomplishments by President Trump, that historic truth and transparency. You're about to see it again there at the White House press briefing room as we're starting out with an 8:30 Eastern, any minute from now, press conference with Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller. And once again, if you're just joining us, you may have been seeing the new media press briefings as well by Karoline Leavitt. So basically, what I believe is happening is because there's so much media in that traditional briefing room, and then there's the new media seat, and then there's that conservative corner of fellow colleagues and journalists in the White House press briefing room. There's just not enough room to add everybody else that's trying to get in there. So maybe they're having this new media press briefing to just help with all of the media that's interested in accessing the White House, just as we did the other day for that special that we aired last night. If you missed the White House special report that we aired it last night. You can check that out on Rumble or wherever you watch your social media platform RSBN coverage. Of course, Rumble, a great streaming platform. We have so many other places that we air, but great to see so many people watching on various platforms as we get ready for that press conference there live, scheduled for the 8:30 start, a few minutes late at this point, but obviously it's morning rush hour in Washington, D.C. as well. Everybody getting into that press briefing room, all of the people situated. And also on top of that, Stephen Miller, Karoline Leavitt, the White House comms team, as they made this announcement just last night on the White House press guidance. Basically, it's an email to the press saying this is the public schedule for the president the next day, including on that are events like this. That came in around 10 Eastern last night, so pretty quick turnaround for us this morning. But again, we have this live coverage now, and then at 10 a.m. Eastern, we'll be starting a different stream for coverage for the National Day of Prayer. We have a number of pastors lined up to join us during that hour prior to the 11 a.m. event, which is at the Rose Garden, and then later today again at the University of Alabama with Robert McNeely there at 3 o'clock Eastern for Rally Day in Alabama. Looking forward to seeing it there in this great state. And of course, we're based in Auburn, and a huge rivalry, of course, with the Iron Bowl, and every time we play Alabama. But, you know, at the end of the day, War Eagle, of course, Auburn, Alabama, here we are. But looking forward to that coverage from the University of Alabama, where we'll hear President Trump speak at that commencement address later tonight. So a lot of coverage here on the network. So again, thank you for waking up with us or just watching us, wherever you're at your house or at your workplace, or maybe you're on the road right now driving and maybe just listening to us. Thanks so much for doing so as we get ready to hear from two amazing communicators at this White House. We know President Trump is the king of communication when it comes to anything politics, sports, fun, making us laugh. We get that. But Stephen Miller and Karoline Leavitt and pretty much everybody at that White House and within that cabinet at the executive branch, and many in Congress as well that are on Team America First, are great communicators. And they're really able to share with you outside of being a good communicator. I mean, Obama was a pretty good communicator, but he was a Marxist guy. He wasn't on the right side of history. So it's a great 1-2, figuratively speaking, punch when you have Stephen Miller, who comes in saying great truthful statements with that left jab, and then that right hook is all about the delivery and the enunciation and the clarity of the common sense approach. And that's what we're about to hear. This whole press conference is actually about restoring common sense in America. This all brought to you by Colonial Metals Group, freegoldguide.com/RSBN, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. You see the QR code right there on your screen. Again, thanks for waking up with us. If you'd like to go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN, great backup to the dollar, gold and silver, tax sheltered IRA, 401k, 100% tax-free, Colonial Metals Group. All right, so it's 8:39 on this Thursday, May 1st. You see the press in there ready to go. Some of the people that stand up to the left, that's the conservative corner. That's where the conservative media is standing. Looking forward to seeing a little bit of a seating change, hopefully, when it comes to this press briefing room, where, you know, the traditional media that's been there and been lying to us for decades. It would be quite nice to see that maybe conservative media gets some of those seats, because we, the people, voted for a conservative, common sense president in President Trump. And then on top of that, are on the side of conservative media, as we are on the side of we, the people, and common sense. So maybe we'll see something like that happen. There have been reports floating around about a seating change there at the traditional briefing room. We'll see what happens. We'll cover it as we see it. But then again, the new media press conference that happens, it seems as if it happens at least 3 times a week, where there's a different time for it. And Karoline Leavitt holds that meeting as well. So great to get the questions and answers done. Great to get all the sound bites, the interviews, and all of that access. Again, that historic truth and transparency that we see at the White House. All right, let's go over a few news items, as this press conference is slightly delayed at this point. You see the press there ready to go, but with the TVs not on yet, and no sign of Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller quite yet, we're going to, of course, stand by here and wait for that briefing to start. We'll bring it to you in its entirety. Again, it's 8:41. Thanks again for joining us. For those of you just joining us right now, this is an RSBN triple header, of course. We'll have coverage at 10 a.m. Eastern at the Rose Garden of the White House, where there will be a National Day of Prayer event. We have a number of pastors about to join us during that broadcast. And then a bit later today at 3 o'clock from the University of Alabama, as President Trump will be delivering that commencement address. So let's shift over to the National Day of Prayer. Obviously, prayer happening in towns and cities and boroughs and municipalities across America. I remember back in the day in high school, or maybe it was middle school, where we'd pray, we'd hold hands and pray around, a flagpole and meet there and pray to God before, the class starts that day. I remember just all of the moments of faith that we've had. Think about your different experiences in faith, and those of you that aren't really into that kind of thing, maybe one day you'll be into that. But at the end of the day, having a country that is still together regarding conservatism and freedom is primo number one when it comes to politics. But outside of that, many of us believe that God is first, or Jesus is first, and that is many of us believe that, especially on the right side of history and the majority of the country. But outside of that, though, welcoming to people that believe other things in the sense of just being friendly and not being like excommunicating from people because they have a different faith, but maybe sharing your testimony with somebody. Maybe they would see what you believe in and by your actions speaking louder than your words. Now, I'm not a pastor or anything. Have I drank alcohol before? Yes. Have I cursed before? Yes. Have I had my ups and downs in life? Yes. I'm just being honest with you, because at the end of the day, that's what you guys like, is people that are genuine with you and connect with you, as we've seen with President Trump. But the point is, thank God for salvation, and thank God for today, National Day of Prayer. Romans 8:28, all things work together for the good to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. That means everything works together for the good to those that love God. So everybody has that opportunity to be able to look up and to be able to start seeking God no matter where they're from, and to hear that gospel message. And it's great to have a country and a president that is believer in the Holy Bible, the Old Testament, the Judaism faith, the Christian faith in the New Testament, the Holy Bible all together. And we'll hear a lot about faith coming up, as today, again, is the National Day of Prayer. That event will start at 11 a.m. from the White House Rose Garden. We'll have live coverage starting at 10 a.m. We have a number of faith leaders that will join us at 10 o'clock today. So that's the second event. Again, the third event, really looking forward to it as well, President Trump's commencement speech at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So Robert McNeely and a number of our photographers are on their way to Tuscaloosa for this great coverage later today. Now, we're starting it at 3 Eastern. President Trump's speech isn't until 7 Eastern. 7 Eastern. I believe I saw that correctly. You know how sometimes on a schedule it says Central Time or Eastern Time? I'm going to double check that quickly here just for our knowledge to know what time the president is speaking later today. It does say, let's see, 7 p.m. It does, okay, 7 p.m. Central Time. So there you go. 8 o'clock Eastern is when President Trump will be speaking tonight. So I'm going to change that in my notes here as well. 7 Central, 8 Eastern is President Trump's speech. I believe it's going to be a very, I don't know if rowdy is the right word, but it's going to be an exciting, uplifting atmosphere. You think about the students that go to University of Alabama, the seniors, they're already happy that they're graduating. Then you've got the commander-in-chief, who is a great orator, a great deliverer of speeches, and is also going to probably share with us some insight of how he got to where he is. These commencement addresses can be very encouraging and inspiring. If you've watched, even some of the actors out there that have shared their commencement addresses, or other people that, even if you don't believe in what they say politically, there might be that one truth or that one nugget that says, that's how you get successful. I get that. Well, of all people, why not hear from one of the most successful people on the planet, President Trump, who not only did great things with real estate and TV entertainment, then shifting over to being the President of the United States and kicking some serious you-know-what during that first administration, going through hell and high water, as they say, over the past 4 years, and now the political comeback of comebacks back there as the 47th Commander-in-Chief. So we're going to be hearing, I hope, an amazing message tonight from the president for that commencement address. Maybe he'll talk about a little bit about Butler, PA. Maybe he'll talk about that political comeback. Maybe he'll talk about how he went through some ups and downs, maybe through success and what he had to learn back in the day in real estate. Maybe just something personal, who knows? But we'll be watching tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern, that commencement address. 3 p.m. Eastern is when we'll have that coverage from the University of Alabama. Robert McNeely will be there live, and it'll be great to hear from the students there at the University of Alabama and any of the friends, family, staff, and others that will be attending that event. I believe it's an indoor event tonight at the Coliseum there. It's specifically called, let me get that on the fly, the Coleman Coliseum at the University of Alabama. So that's tonight. Before we get to that, of course, we'll go to this press conference. And what I really love about the press conference is 3 things. 1, Karoline Leavitt is awesome. Stephen Miller is also great. And it's all about common sense being restored in America. That's what the press conference is about. So looking forward to hearing from these 2 great people, and then also talking about something that we love here at the network, of course. I know there are times that there are some, maybe a bit more than some, but repetition when it comes to certain things. But why not talk about the basics of what we desire in this country, and also what we look forward to keeping the true narrative in there and in that spotlight here in conservative media. There are plenty of stories to dive into and to talk about, and we do that here with analysis, commentary, interviews. We'll have a few interviews coming up in the next broadcast. But if you missed our special report from the White House last night, we aired it at 7 Eastern, and it ended around 8:06 Eastern. But you can check that out on Rumble, on X. You could also check it out on YouTube if you'd like to watch from last night, where I interviewed a number of White House officials just last night. So that was from a trip that we went to the White House last week. It was great to see the White House once again and cover it from the conservative media perspective, which is the right side of history, and where my mind and heart are in that side of everything when it comes to being a journalist and wanting to cover what the truth is out there, and having that opportunity to be able to speak freely on this network is quite awesome as well. And I've been saying the words, talk about repetition, I'll call it out myself. I say quite awesome a lot, and I gotta rein that in somehow. No teleprompter, just rocking and rolling here for you guys as we are waiting for Stephen Miller and Karoline Leavitt live right now. Let's go to Kalshi.com. Kalshi.com/RSBN if you'd like to go to that website there, Kalshi.com/RSBN. There are a lot of different things you could trade and bet on if you'd like. So we're looking at, science, technology, politics, sports, politics, all sorts of things. So Kalshi.com, sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Without these great sponsors, we wouldn't be able to bring you any of this live coverage. Literally, without the sponsors and without your donations, how else are we going to pay for everything that's happening, including the live feed that you see there at the White House? That is not something that is cheap, let's put it that way. So it's great that we have these awesome sponsors. But if you'd also like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, text RSBN to 801-801. If you love the coverage, you like seeing President Trump and all of the press conferences and all the different things going on, like today with the National Day of Prayer, and tonight the University of Alabama commencement speech. Obviously, it's free access for you to watch us here at the network. So just text RSBN to 801-801 if you'd like to even chip in $1 or more, whatever you'd like to do. If you can't do it right now, totally understand. But at the end of the day, obviously it takes some dollars to be able to afford the live events that we are going to with our camera crews and everybody involved. So anyway, Kalshi.com, you see that there on the screen. 8:51, Thursday, May 1st. Happy May 1st for you. Looking forward to this press conference here any minute from now. Also, if you're just joining us, we're going to play one more video that we played at the top of the broadcast. We started about 8:20, so about half an hour ago. And if you already saw the video, you know what? It's worth playing again. Let's go to President Trump just the other day when he was concluding his speech, Happy Thursday, May 1st, 8:51 a.m. Director, do we have that video from this morning? All right, let's watch it together.
There is nobody smarter or tougher than Stephen Miller. Stephen, say a couple.
Who's enjoying 100 golden days of America? President Trump has achieved the most secure border in American history. He's fighting violent crime. He's fighting the drug cartels. He's cutting your taxes. He's cutting wasteful spending. He's draining the swamp. He's standing up to the radical left. He's standing up to the communists, and he's making America stronger than it's ever been. President Trump will never stop fighting for you, your children, and your family, and President Trump will make sure that in this country, not illegal aliens, not criminals, not gangbangers, but American citizens come first, last, and always. Thank you. And thank you, President Trump, for being the greatest president in American history.
Okay, so Stephen Miller, of course, will be at this press event. This is a common sense, Restoring Common Sense in America press event, so it'll be great to hear from Stephen and Karoline Leavitt here shortly. The other video I was referring to, why not play it on May 1st, as we have been winning in this country. And yes, there are still things to take care of. There's a lot of work ahead of us. There's more files to be seen from, Representative Ana Paulina Luna said there's this declassification task force, Epstein files, and on. There's all these different things out there that the American people are looking forward to seeing. We are awaiting the 20 core promises to be fully fulfilled, and many of them already have been fulfilled when it comes to sealing the border and so many other things. No men and women's sports. We've gone over those 20 core promises several times here at the network. We're watching the reformation of America through common sense every day at Right Side, and I know you guys are too. You have a front row seat. We together have a front row seat to the greatness of this president and of what's happening in this country. So enter a time to dance. Why not? Let's take a look.
Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. I said, young man, 'cause you're in a new town. There's no need to be unhappy. Young man, there's a place you can go. I said, young man, when you're short on your dough, you can stay there. And I'm sure you will find many ways to have a good time. It's fun to stay at the YMCA.
Great video there. That was from Tuesday night, of course, Warren, Michigan. It's fun to relive some of the great moments that we've seen here on Right Side. And a little bit inside baseball. The video there was by one of our photographers that have been with Right Side for many years, and a pro, right? You saw the pullback of the, seeing the crowd and seeing the president. Sometimes what we have here is a live pool camera or other camera people from other networks, which it's still great because we work together to be able to get this access. But to have our own RSBN cameras at another rally the other day on Tuesday, and that wonderful video capability and those skills, not only having Robert McNeely, Megan Kohler, and all of us on the network blabbing and talking all the time, but the people that are behind the scenes that are able to put all of this together and to be able to get that great video and these great moments captured. It takes a real full team effort. And it's awesome to work with people that are on the right side of history here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we get ready for hopefully the White House feed there. That obviously is someone else pressing those buttons, not us here at the network. So as soon as we see that live feed, we will go to the White House, as we may take a look at the White House exterior shot in the meantime as we get that one ready there live at 8:56 this morning, Thursday, May 1st. Again, thanks so much for joining us. We're getting ready for Stephen Miller and Karoline Leavitt to walk out there to the podium. I've spoken about this a few times. It's probably maybe one of the last times we'll talk about it. Who knows? But the point is, today's National Day of Prayer, and so before Karoline Leavitt steps out to that podium, on that blue door right there where you see somebody kind of walking back there, that's where she and the team pray right before they come out to the podium. They do that every time that they walk out. I saw that interview on the 700 Club. David Brody did that interview with Karoline Leavitt, and that's what she said, that every time we're in that press briefing room before we go there, we pray before we come out. And it's awesome to see that with this White House press secretary, and then again, hearing from Stephen Miller coming up here at any minute. So it's almost the top of the hour, 8:57. Thanks for joining us. We have 2 more broadcasts today. So today's an RSBN Live triple header. At 10 a.m. Eastern, we'll have the National Day of Prayer event at the White House at the Rose Garden. And then at 3 o'clock Eastern, we're gearing up for Rally Day in America, Part 2. I mean, I thought it was just going to be in Michigan for Tuesday. I didn't think there'd be another rally type thing going on, but there is, because President Trump will be speaking at the University of Alabama commencement address tonight at 8 o'clock. We're out there live early because obviously a lot of the students there are supporters of President Trump. Alabama, a huge red state, as you guys know. So a lot of people are going to be cheering and excited that President Trump's there. So we're looking at a fun speech tonight, prime time, 8 o'clock Eastern. That's going to be awesome to see. So hope you join us a little bit later. Including before that 8 o'clock, even at 3 o'clock Eastern, even if you have other things going on, if you want to put us on your phone or the TV or the laptop, iPad, Surface, whatever you're watching on, and check out and listen to what some of the people are saying there, as of course we will be interviewing people prior to that great event there outside the venue, just like you've grown accustomed to us interviewing people outside of the venue, just like we did in Michigan the other day. And just like we'll do tonight in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the home of the University of Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Of course, tough to say all that when you're in Auburn, Alabama, where Auburn and the University of Alabama are huge, huge rivals, as many of you know, especially in the Southeast. But we'll see. Maybe President Trump will speak at Auburn University one of these days. But at the end of the day, great to have coverage there at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So looking forward to seeing you guys there and watching here at the network. I'll be watching right there with you as we get ready for this press conference here. Again, this is going to be quite great because it's all about restoring common sense, and that's specifically what is in the public schedule for the president when it comes to what this press briefing is called. So let me get right to it. It says briefing schedule, 8:30 a.m., obviously a bit late today. Press briefing by the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, and Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, on restoring common sense. If there's a press briefing that I'd want to cover, it's this one, because of that word, those words, common sense, and because Stephen and Karoline are really great orators for the messaging of what's really happening out there. They don't take crap from the fake news. You see how they push back against any of the false narrative questions. And if I hear one more reporter, man, talk about this MS-13 Maryland dad guy again, I mean, think about it. The guy is involved with MS-13. There are reports about domestic abuse to his wife. I mean, listen, I get nobody's perfect, but if you're going to commit crimes, you have to pay for your penalty, right? So that's how it works. And so the reporters covering for these different illegal aliens makes no sense. They censor. They don't even show the pictures of what the White House put out the other day. We didn't do that. We definitely would show you what's happening because it's kind of common sense to do so. So, producer, can you please repeat? Okay, let's go to Family Pharmacy right now. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Obviously a great sponsor here at the network. If you're looking for ivermectin or other medications that, sometimes it's really difficult to get certain medications, well, ivermectin's right there. I have ivermectin as well, just in case. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Get 10% off using that RSBN10 promo code. An awesome sponsor here at the network, but not only being a great sponsor, but having a great product, like all of our sponsors here at Right Side. Ivermectin, other essential medications. Go ahead to that website. You'll fill out some medical online paperwork. It takes a second. but allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, an awesome sponsor here at Right Side. All right, so it's the top of the hour, 9:01 in the morning, and we are expecting the press conference to start any minute now. I was seeing some of the inside comms here at the network that this may have been delayed to about 9 o'clock. So just saw that a minute ago. So that means any minute now we should see Karoline Leavitt and Stephen Miller. As you see some of the press already there, someone doing a live shot for another network. But at the end of the day, it was great to be at the White House just the other day. If you missed any of our coverage from the White House for our special report, you could watch it on Rumble or YouTube if you'd like. And it was great to interview some White House officials talking about the first 100 days of President Trump's second administration. It's been, as you guys know, Trump speed, pedal to the metal. And I posted on Truth Social this morning just for fun a little bit of a clip of the movie Top Gun Maverick when Tom Cruise was in the jet and he was able to fly this one training course in far less time than could be possible. And that's basically defining what the past 100 days have been like, Trump speed. And it's not going to stop. It's going to keep going. And it's not out of control because it's just a lot of work to get it done. You know, all of these things that were wrong with our country, President Trump is working in hyper speed with the entire executive branch, all of the all-star cabinet positions to take care of business, to restore our country, and today, as you'll see, restore common sense, because as you guys know, common sense is the key to making America great again. So what else is there to say? I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you. Standing by here at the press conference as we get ready to see Stephen Miller and Karoline Leavitt. In the meantime, let me check a couple other posts from President Trump on Truth Social. We'll see if he said anything from this morning. But again, if you're just joining us, we have a number of live events today. One is happening in about an hour from now, so 57 minutes from now will be another stream. It'll be at the conclusion of this press briefing. That'll be for the National Day of Prayer. We have a couple pastors we'll be interviewing, but also that will be from the Rose Garden. Then that event starts at around 11 a.m. And then later today, again, that University of Alabama commencement speech. So here we go. Let's go get ready for the University of Alabama situation that will be later today. Of course, War Eagle for Auburn as we get ready to see that coverage a little bit later. All right, so 9:04 Eastern, Thursday, May 1st. Why don't we do this? Let's go there live to the press briefing room. Let's listen in, and we'll see if they pop up on screen. In the next minute or so, we can come right back. So let's go there to Washington.
But I will say that in terms of the congressional leadership coming here to the White House, obviously they want to give the president an update of where things stand on this negotiation. The White House very eager to see this just be signed into law, and they're getting ready to come out now, so I'll take a seat. Dana.
Good morning, everybody. We're capping off the first 100-day week with our morning briefing. How does everybody feel? You like the morning briefings? Okay, we do too. That's why we're doing them. Good to see all of you. I brought a friend out here today who's happy to take your questions, but first, some remarks. At 11 o'clock, President Trump will participate in a National Day of Prayer event where he will invite Americans of all faiths across the country to join him in asking for God's continued blessings over our great country. During the event, the President will sign an executive order establishing a Religious Liberty Commission. Later today, President Trump will travel to the University of Alabama to deliver a commencement address to the graduating class of 2025. Last night, we saw yet again why President Trump is our deal maker in chief. We secured a historic agreement to establish the United States-Ukraine Reconstruction Investment Fund. This is a first of its kind economic partnership for the reconstruction and long-term economic success of Ukraine that the United States will greatly benefit from. This partnership represents the United States taking an economic stake in securing a free, peaceful, and sovereign future for Ukraine. This partnership establishes a fund that will receive 50% of royalties, license fees, and other similar payments from natural resource projects in Ukraine. President Trump has been clear from the beginning. He wants the killing in this brutal war to end. This agreement shows how invested the president is in securing a truly lasting peace. To mark President Trump's triumphant first 100 days in office, we've detailed all week how President Trump has been hard at work delivering on the promises he made to the American people. And yesterday, the president once again showcased why he is the most transparent and accessible president in American history when he held his fourth open press cabinet meeting. Every cabinet secretary went into great detail, explaining how their respective agencies are making life better for American families and businesses. And then the president allowed all of you to ask questions on anything you wanted afterwards. One of the main reasons President Trump won nearly 80 million votes, swept all 7 battleground states, and received a resounding mandate from the American public is because of the contrast he presented during the campaign and continues to this day. Everything in President Trump's agenda is grounded in one thing: common sense. While the Democrat Party went off the deep end and doubled down on pure craziness, President Trump pledged to restore common sense back to the United States of America. In a little more than 3 months, that's exactly what he's done. He recognized that America is a sovereign nation that cannot survive if it does not protect its territorial borders. So he secured the border in record time and ended the mass invasion of tens of millions of illegal aliens into our homeland. The president knows his top responsibility is ensuring the safety of the American people, which is why he's arresting violent illegal alien invaders in our communities who threaten our public safety. And it's unacceptable to President Trump to allow rampant waste, fraud, and abuse of Americans' precious tax dollars, which is why the president championed a historic DOGE effort that saved nearly $200 billion already. President Trump knows America is blessed with an abundance of liquid gold below our feet in the form of fossil fuels. So precious tax dollars, which is why the president championed a historic DOGE effort that saved nearly $200 billion already. President Trump knows America is blessed with an abundance of liquid gold below our feet in the form of fossil fuels. So he ended Joe Biden's reckless war on American energy and is restoring American energy dominance to lower costs and strengthen our national security. President Trump believes Americans should be free to drive whatever car they want. So he ended Joe Biden's disastrous EV mandate and promoted true consumer choice. President Trump stood up for the Constitution's promise of colorblind equality before the law, so he terminated radical DEI preferencing and federal contracting and directed federal agencies to relentlessly combat private sector discrimination. DEI seeks to divide and pit Americans against each other based on immutable characteristics. President Trump put an end to it. In President Trump's America, individual dignity, hard work, and excellence are the only things that will determine if you get ahead. President Trump is a proud free speech champion, which is why he ended Joe Biden's trampling of free speech rights and the federal government's censorship of American speech on online platforms. The president believes college students have a right to speak their minds and go to school safely. Again, common sense. So he took bold action to protect Jewish American students from harassment by pro-Hamas radicals on their campuses. And President Trump knows that America's children are our future, and he'll never stop fighting for them. That's why he ended the radical, un-American indoctrination of children by eliminating support for divisive, radical gender ideology, and equity ideology, and why the president protected parents' fundamental rights. And lastly, the president believes in fundamental biology. Isn't that something? Which is why he made it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two sexes, male and female. And because men and women are biologically different, President Trump ended the unfair, demeaning practice of forcing women to compete against men in sports and having their private spaces invaded. When President Trump promised a complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense, he meant it. And over the next 100 days, get ready for historic trade deals, budget deals, and peace deals. For more on President Trump's common sense revolution, I will turn it over to our White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller. Stephen, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you, Caroline. Great to be up here with you, and great to see so many familiar faces I've had a chance to get to know over a number of years as we gather this morning to continue our celebration of President Trump's unprecedented and historic first 100 days in office, what are without doubt the greatest 100 days to begin any American presidency in the history of this nation. This week you've heard about the historic actions President Trump has taken to secure our homeland, to secure our sovereignty, to secure our economy and our supply chains and our industrial base. Today you're also going to hear from me about what President Trump has done to secure our values, our culture, and our way of life from the unwavering assault from the radical left and the communists and the Democrat Party. One of the most significant crises that President Trump inherited upon taking office was the wave of racial discrimination, so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that have taken over both public sector and private sector entities all across the United States of America. Perhaps the most dramatic example of this is that our air traffic controllers were being hired and promoted based on race and gender, not their ability to conduct our nation's air traffic. I would estimate that probably 90% of Americans would agree with the statement that airline safety should be based on your ability to keep, airline safety jobs should be based on your ability to keep planes landing and taking off and flying safely, not on what demographic box you check. President Trump has ended across the entire federal government all hiring, recruiting, retention, promotion, and training based on race and sex. This includes in our law enforcement agencies. So again, when we took office, even in sensitive law enforcement, national security, and intelligence agencies, we were hiring individuals not on their ability to carry a weapon, not on their ability to keep Americans safe, not on their ability to conduct sensitive intelligence operations, but based upon race and sex. And obviously, that is unacceptable. It's going to be merit-based across the whole federal government. But this wasn't just the federal government. This was the private sector, and this was also, of course, our entire university and education system. So President Trump's Department of Justice, working with other departments and agencies, have made clear that this administration is going to fully enforce Title VI, Title VII, and Title IX of our Federal Civil Rights Code. Discrimination based on race and sex is prohibited by law, and this administration will vigorously enforce that. And companies, small or large, that violate plain text of federal statutes will face appropriate financial and other penalties. This administration is not going to let our society devolve into communist, woke, DEI strangulation. We are going to have a system of merit, which is not just a social and cultural issue, it's an economic issue. When you hire, retain, and recruit based on merit, as President Trump has directed, you advance innovation, you advance growth, you advance investment, you advance job creation, you create the best and safest product for all Americans. When a citizen goes to, say, a hospital in a medical emergency, they don't care what race or sex their doctor or their nurse is. They want the best treatment they can get in that emergency. When they're flying a plane or when they're on an aircraft, they want that pilot to be the best pilot, the safest pilot, not caring what that pilot's race or sex is. This applies across the whole government. In particular, looking at our university system, this administration has opened investigations into universities across the country for violating We talk a lot about Supreme Court rulings. Universities across this country are in plain and direct violation of the Supreme Court's ruling that affirmative action, as in racial quotas and set-asides, are illegal. Students must be admitted to universities on a color-blind basis. But we have demonstrated through clear evidence that our university system, including our medical schools, and perhaps particularly our medical schools, are engaging in race-based discrimination, racial set-asides, racial quota schemes, and other efforts to evade the Supreme Court's ruling, and again, the plain text of federal statute. So universities are on notice, and universities are already facing the financial consequences of their noncompliance with federal law. The clearest example that we're all familiar with, of course, being Harvard, which is engaged in repeat, systemic, and sustained violations of federal civil rights law. Another area of civil rights law that we talk about a lot, of course, is Title IX, sex-based discrimination. And this administration ended the Biden administration's policy and the Democrat Party's policy of allowing men into women's sports, men into women's spaces. We are using every single legal and financial tool we have at President Trump's direction to make it clear that schools and universities are and will lose federal funds, as you've seen in Maine, if you allow men to invade women's sports and women's spaces. And this applies to our whole K-12 system. The Department of Justice is also coordinating with state and local law enforcement to fight child abuse in our school systems. It is child abuse to change a child's gender, particularly if you do not inform the parents. In other words, if a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old goes to school, or a 7-year-old goes to school, and the teacher tries to turn the boy into a girl or the girl into a boy, that is child abuse. And this administration is treating that as child abuse. And it is a gross violation of parental rights. This also includes the administration's message to our hospital systems that they cannot and will not be allowed to use taxpayer dollars to perform chemical castrations and sexual mutilations of children. Castration surgeries, castration drugs, sterilization treatments of children are barbaric. They violate all sound medical ethics. They are completely unwarranted. They harm children for life irreversibly. It is child torture. It is child abuse. It is medical malpractice. And so the Department of Health and Human Services, under the leadership of Bobby Kennedy, as well as the Department of Justice and other departments of this government, are making clear to our medical providers and our hospital systems that you cannot use taxpayer dollars to perform these barbaric procedures on America's children. And HHS has systematically eliminated all of the junk, fake science that was produced under the Biden administration promoting sex changes on children, promoting the idea of sterilizing children. That's been cleaned out, that's been removed, and new guidance is being issued to doctors and hospitals advising them that they cannot perform these horrifying procedures, these irreversible procedures on our nation's children. We are also making clear in our prison system, male prisoners will not be allowed into women's prisons. The Biden administration promoted prison rape by putting men into female prisons. That is obviously insane, cruel, and unacceptable. And even though the Democrat Party and Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrat media continue to fight to put men into women's prisons, this administration will not allow that. And will not allow men, as well, in our K-12 system, into women's private spaces and restrooms. We have seen horrifying example after example of young girls being sexually assaulted because school districts have allowed men into women's and girls' private spaces. This administration, President Trump, is at the forefront of protecting women and protecting girls. And nowhere is that clearer than when we are talking about fighting radical gender ideology. This administration is also fighting to get critical race theory out of our school districts. Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous, communist, woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues. The president has also fought to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of protecting public safety and locking up violent criminals, instead of using the Department of Justice to target conservatives, to target Christians, to target people of faith. The last administration cruelly and shamefully used the power of the Justice Department to go after law-abiding Americans, in particular Trump supporters, conservatives, and Christians. That persecution has ended. The Department of Justice and the FBI are back in the business of going after bad guys, of going after gangs, of going after criminals, and keeping Americans safe. Let me just conclude before taking questions by noting that when you look at the sweep of the first 100 days, every single crisis that has afflicted America for years, sometimes decades, sometimes generations, this president has fought head on. He has taken on every entrenched power structure and system all across this government, this swamp, this town. That includes, of course, the DOGE efforts to slash corrupt, wasteful government spending, graft, and corruption, and to stop billions of taxpayer dollars from going to radical left NGOs. These are left-wing nonprofits that are used to advance illegal immigration, to advance open borders, to advance gender ideology, and to advance all of this insanity that has been turning our country in the wrong direction for so many years. President Trump took head on the trade crisis afflicting this country with the destruction of our manufacturing and industrial base, the shameful betrayal of the American worker by Joe Biden and the globalists that sent all of our supply chains overseas. He took head on the catastrophe of mass, unlimited illegal immigration that was turning us into a failed third world state, and achieved the lowest level of illegal immigration in recorded history without even a close second. He took on the economic crisis afflicting this country by reopening American energy, by defeating inflation, by lowering gas prices, by ending the onslaught and reversing the onslaught of federal regulation, by reopening coal, shale, oil, natural gas, and fighting now for the largest tax cut and reform, and the largest deregulation reform, and the largest energy reform in American history. These are just some of the things that have ushered in the new golden age, along with his fight to restore the peace that we had for 4 years under the previous administration before Joe Biden sunk this planet into bloodshed and war in the Middle East, in Europe, and rising tensions in Asia. President Trump, in every area of conflict around the globe, has been fighting to restore peace, security, stability, harmony. So he inherited an economic catastrophe, a border catastrophe, a public safety catastrophe, and a cultural catastrophe. And in every case, he has reversed those catastrophes and brought America into the new golden age. So I thank you for your time, and I look forward to any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. And as always, we'll start with our new media seat today. Chris Bedford from the Blaze Media. Why don't you kick us off?
Thank you very much. Stephen, what is the end goal of the China tariffs right now? Is the idea to open up the Chinese markets through a deal to a better market for exporting American goods to China, or is it a reconfiguration of global trade in a way that isolates China from free countries?
No. So China is a unique situation, obviously. The president has talked at length about what happened to us economically since China's entrance into the World Trade Organization and the trillions and trillions of dollars of trade deficits that we've racked up with China over the period of that time, and what that's meant for our national security, what that's meant for economic security, what that's meant for our supply chains. Obviously, right now, the Secretary of the Treasury is in the process of developing a plan that will answer the questions that you're talking about, but the president's goals have been very clear on these points, which is that he is not going to allow China to continue to steal our intellectual property, to continue to illegally dump and subsidize their goods in our markets, to manipulate their currency, to rack up an unsustainable trade deficit. We need to have a trade relationship with China that does not do harm to our nation's economic and national security. And that has to be the guidepost of any objective. At the same time, tariffs will bring significant revenue into this country that will allow us to pursue our dramatic plan of tax cuts and reforms.
Awesome. Great. Bloomberg, go ahead.
Hi. First, as well, similar to that question, I'm curious, Kevin Hassett, when you see NBC this morning, you said that they were expecting some sort of news on tariffs by the end of the day. Do you have any insight into that?
I don't want to get ahead of any announcement, but I'll just reiterate that right now, countries from all over the world, because of President Trump's leadership, are desperate and dying to make trade deals with the United States. We're going to evaluate each of those deals, and President Trump is personally involved in making sure that these negotiations serve only one interest, which is the interest of the United States of America, and we'll end up with a deal in these cases where, yes, the other countries, obviously, will have their own demands and their own interests, but nothing will go into effect that doesn't serve the interests of America and the American people.
Thank you. Stephen, this morning GM is putting a dollar figure on how much the president's tariffs will impact the company. The CEO says tariffs will cost GM between $4 and $5 billion this year. The CEO of Ford says he can't commit to not raising prices because of tariffs. Is the administration open to doing more to give automakers relief?
The question, unfortunately, misses the entire point, which is that U.S. automakers have announced dramatic investments and expansions inside the United States. American auto plants are growing, they are expanding, they are opening new facilities, they are expanding existing facilities that are already in operation, because it is now the case that for the first time in our lives, that American cars receive preference in America's markets. The U.S. auto industry used to control the entire world. I believe the number during the heyday was that 70% of all cars in the world were made in Michigan. And now, of course, we've become a tiny fraction of the global market. And the reason for that is because the United States opened its markets to every single foreign cheater and every single foreign nation that subsidized its goods on the face of the earth, and their markets have been closed to ours. Japan closed their market to our cars, the entire EU closed their market to our cars, South Korea closed their market to our cars. All of the countries I just mentioned have tens of billions of dollars of annual trade deficits in automobiles with the United States. These are supposedly pure nations, nations that have at least a somewhat equivalent per capita GDP. So it is impossible under the terms of fair trade, if you have two nations with similar per capita GDP, to have such uneven trade flows in automobiles. What the president has done with his car tariff, we have the most desirable market in the world, is if you want to sell cars tariff-free, tax-free to our market, your plant has to operate in the United States. The only alternative to that is to have no U.S. automobile industry whatsoever, which is where this was headed, to be clear. If we stayed on this current path, within a few years, there would have been no U.S. automobile industry. And what little was left of it would have been in Mexico. Because U.S. auto companies have steadily been shifting their supply chains to Mexico, where they believe it is cheaper to make their products. In reality, it'll be cheaper to make them here because there'll be no tariff for anything made in the United States, and we'll have the cheapest energy and the best regulatory environment in the face of the earth.
But in the meantime, while manufacturing ramps up, American consumers may pay more. Do you agree?
Not on cars they won't, because again, there's now a massive economic incentive for automobile producers to expand production in the United States, and whatever they make here, there will be no tariff.
We'll go to the back row. Go ahead.
Thank you, Karoline. Today, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce released a letter to the Trump administration asking for small business tariff relief. They say that's necessary because in order to save small businesses and to stave off a recession. Stephen, is the administration considering small business tariff relief?
The relief for small businesses is going to come in the form of the largest tax cut in American history. A tax cut, by the way, that every single Democrat is planning to vote against. They're voting for a tax hike on every middle-class family of about $4,000. The president has made clear that there will be 100% expensing for investment in the United States. Companies that invest in the United States will be able to deduct 100% of that cost from their tax liability. This will be the most pro-small business tax bill in American history. And at the same time, this is what you have to understand about the plan, is as they're able to do that, as they're able to reshore those supply chains, that also means they'll pay no tariff. So you'll have the lowest tax environment and there'll be no tariff because their production and supply chains will be in the United States.
So that's a no on tariff relief for small businesses in the short term?
It's a yes on tax relief for small businesses. And again, you only pay the tariff for products that are made outside the United States.
Edward.
Yeah, thanks. So on the rare earth mineral deal that was signed last night, when can that deal be operationalized? What's the time frame? And what kind of leverage does that give Ukraine over Russia?
I think the more important point about the Ukraine deal, and I would hopefully have an update for you soon on how quickly it can be operationalized, but we'll be moving at full speed, not only on that mineral deal, by the way, but on every mineral deal that this president has been unleashing. So we're opening up mines all across this country. We're also pursuing energy and mineral deals all over the world. Since the president issued his executive order also on deregulating coal, we've seen dramatic coal production increases already in the United States. So we're taking advantage of the trillions of dollars in coal wealth and mineral wealth that exists in the United States. We're a very mineral-rich country. But with respect to that deal, we'll move it and operationalize it as fast as we possibly can. But it's meant to pay back the United States, this is the key point, for the hundreds of billions of dollars that our taxpayers have spent subsidizing the war in Ukraine. So it is repayment to the United States, and that's one of the most important points to understand about it.
What's the leverage? Does it give? What kind of leverage does it give?
The president's goal, again, is to end the killing, to achieve a peace settlement. That remains, of course, the overriding objective.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you, Stephen. for
Thank
being
you.
here. This administration has stressed the need for price transparency for things like healthcare bills and concert tickets. So why is it a political and hostile act for Amazon to display price transparency on consumer goods?
Well, I think it's the wrong way of looking at it, which is why would, first of all, that proposal is gone now, but why would Amazon, of all the different things that go into a theoretical price input, right? For example, does Amazon list the cost of California's regulations on everything made in California? Anything you make in California, you have a massive price increase because of the healthcare regulations that are unworkable in that state, because of the labor regulations that are unworkable in that state, because of the subsidies that go to illegal aliens in that state, because of all the bureaucracy. So anything being produced in California has a massive built-in price hike. So why wouldn't Amazon have a list saying if you purchase it in California instead of in Alabama, this is the premium that you pay? That you pay. This was a clear attempt by whoever proposed it originally, I don't know, because Amazon says they were never going to do it, to try to undermine our trade negotiations with China. I'll make another important point on this, which is that there's been many complaints about the fact that there are a lot of products that are sold on Amazon that are actually rip-offs of American products that are then stolen by China, and then they take our IP and they put them into products to try to undersell our manufacturers. So to the extent that we are engaged in labeling issues on Amazon, I would say that would be the most significant one to fix, is making sure we're not undercutting American consumers.
And then one on Abrego Garcia, please. The administration is reportedly inquiring about his return. Is that to check a box for compliance, or does President Trump want him back on U.S. soil, or both?
So, as Secretary Rubio said yesterday in the cabinet meeting, this administration is not going to publicly discuss the inside details of our foreign policy and negotiations with a foreign country. And in particular, we are not going to allow a district court judge to try to become the Secretary of State. Secretary Rubio is the one who, under his leadership and direction at the State Department, is managing the day-to-day relationship with El Salvador. Let's just take a moment, number one, to express our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take some of the most dangerous terrorists off of America's streets and to put them into a safe environment where they cannot continue to engage in acts of terrorism or coordination with the Maduro regime. You may have seen recently an FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use trained Aragua terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil. Now, very few in this room covered that. I'll let you all ask yourselves why you didn't cover it and why your editors didn't assign that story to you. Something I think you should think about on your own. But this is a earth-shattering piece of news. The Biden administration imported a terrorist army that our own FBI assesses is planning assassination strikes on American soil against critics of the Maduro regime. Those are the terrorists that President Trump is finding and apprehending that our Democrat judges and Democrat activists are trying to keep on U.S. soil. Tren de Aragua has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. MS-13 has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil. And our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take custody of these terrorists is immense. With respect to the case that you mentioned, there's now even been more evidence that has been made public of this person's violent, repeated threats and assaults against his spouse, someone who had repeated, documented human trafficking and human smuggling offenses, somebody that has extensively documented membership in MS-13, a terrorist organization, and of course he had MS-13 tattooed on his knuckles. This is a person that was a clear and present danger to the safety of the American people. And it is a sad reflection on the state of our media and many of the outlets represented in this room that you obsessively try to shill for this MS-13 terrorist. Well, no coverage occurred in your papers about any of the Americans that were raped and tortured and murdered by the illegals that Biden was importing into our country. You know, you talk about due process. The Biden administration made the decision to give extensive due process to 2 trained Nicaragua terrorists that were apprehended at the border just a couple years ago. They were 2 gentlemen. They were from Venezuela. They were members of trained Nicaragua. The Biden administration Border Patrol apprehended them and made the decision to provide them with extensive due process, put them onto a program known as supervised release, and put them on ankle monitors so that they could go through a lengthy legal, judicial determination as to whether these legal aliens who had just set foot on U.S. soil might want to live in the United States for the rest of their lives. What was the result of that decision? What was the result of that choice that was made? Those 2 men kidnapped a young girl named Jocelyn Ungary from her family. They beat her, they sexually assaulted her, they tortured her, they stripped her, they murdered her, and they dumped her body. That is what the Biden administration's policy was. Most of your papers never covered her story when it happened. To the extent that you covered it at all, it was because President Trump forced you to cover it by highlighting it repeatedly over and over again. He had to shame you into covering it. And each and every one of you that sides over and over again with these MS-13 terrorists, to the extent that you have the financial means to do so, you all choose to live in condos or homes or houses as far away from these kinds of gangbangers as you possibly can. If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia or Sinaloa cartel or trained Nicaragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered. So you're not going to get an ounce of sympathy from this administration or President Trump for the terrorists who've invaded our homes and our country.
Awesome. Thank you. Peter, we'll take a couple more questions.
A couple questions on DOGE, of course, because that's the topic that you're here to speak about. But I want to ask you one other question about the topic of prices. We heard from the president on this just yesterday, right now, on prices and the risk that there could be some short-term, as he said, shortages. He was referring specifically to dolls. What do you tell Americans right now, Stephen, who say they can't afford to, in the president's words, be patient? Americans who voted for President Trump on his promise that he would lower prices across the board on day 1.
But he did lower prices across the board on day 1.
Well, grocery prices last month went up 0.4%, of course. So I mean, just across the board, not exclusively eggs.
Inflation, as you would acknowledge, is down substantially. Gas prices are down substantially. The new GDP report showed a 22% record increase in investment in the United States of America. So all of the, and don't even, egg prices, of course, which was all you guys talked about for a few days, I think are down like 80%. The reality is that we can either surrender economically to China, or we can reclaim and reshore our manufacturing base and our industrial needs. And it's not just China. In the event of any national emergency, this is the president's first duty as commander-in-chief. In the event of any national emergency, we cannot be reliant on foreign countries for steel, aluminum, energy, technology, any of the essential components that we need to keep this country running. He is fulfilling his duty as commander-in-chief that every president before him had failed to fulfill or even actively betrayed. And despite inheriting all of this, as I mentioned, inflation down, jobs up, and particularly, by the way, jobs for American workers. So for the first time, you look at these jobs reports, the government workers are going down, which artificially, of course, increased previous job totals. The employment of non-citizens is going down. The employment of American citizens is exploding. Remember, all the job gains during the Biden administration, so-called gains, on net were for foreign workers. So if you look at the stock of American workers over his whole administration, they lost jobs on net. So if you're an American worker, you lived through 4 years of a Biden depression. That was the economic reality that now that President Trump is rescuing. And again, if you make your product in America, there's no tariff. And as we develop advanced manufacturing techniques, increased AI, increased robotics, it'll be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to manufacture in America.
But to be clear, you said that prices have gone down across the board. The president himself acknowledged that on toys you may end up paying, on dolls he was referring to, you may end up paying a little bit more right now. So in terms of
he was making the point that I think almost every American consumer agrees with. If they had a choice between and I'm a parent of young children, you had a choice between a doll from China that might have, say, lead paint in it, that is not as well constructed as a doll made in America that has a higher environmental and regulatory standard and that is made to a higher degree of quality. And those two products are both on Amazon, that yes, you probably would be willing to pay more for a better made American product. But here's the key point. With the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, the energy price decrease, and everything else that President Trump is doing to unleash this era of American prosperity and prevent the road we were on to get off that road of financial ruin and doom, means that it will be cheaper than ever to make and manufacture in America. I think that answers your question.
So I'm going to
one more.
Stephen, can I just... Caroline, can I ask the Doge question? Can I ask about Doge?
There's so much interest this morning. Peter, we just gave you 2 questions. Brian, go ahead.
But I'll wait. Thank you.
Last night, Kamala Harris delivered her first major speech after losing the election. She attacked Trump personally, attacked the policies. Any comment from the White House on that?
Well, I think it was a great reminder to the American people of just how blessed we all are that the leader sitting in the Oval Office today is President Donald Trump and not President Kamala Harris. It was a helpful reminder of just what a travesty and a tragedy that would have been. It would have been the end of America. And it gives me a chance to bring this whole thing home. If we continued on this road of radical regulation, choking off American energy, sending our supply chains to foreign countries, taxing our economy to death, pushing this cancerous woke ideology on our children, ending merit, ending scientific innovation, ending public safety, allowing, everyone goes to the stores these days, everything's locked up, criminals roam free, law-abiding citizens under the previous administration were punished while gangbangers were given red carpet treatment. Democrats, of course, are still giving gangbangers red carpet treatment. And then the border invasion. If those policies had continued, it would have been the end of the American Republic. And the only thing Americans want to hear from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden, and remember, she was the border czar, joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this, because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. Every day we read another story. Every day we arrest another alien they let into this country who raped a child, who beat a woman within an inch of her life, who murdered a mom, who murdered a dad, who trafficked drugs into this country, who trafficked fentanyl into this country, who are responsible for dead and slaughtered Americans. And I don't know what's broken in the Washington press corps, that none of that moves them emotionally. The only thing that gets them exercised is, do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? Do we need to have more trials for gangbangers? Do we need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders? Even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly. This president has literally saved America, and I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder, as I know Caroline feels the same way, to come every single day to this building where we have a leader sitting in office whose first, last, and every thought is the safety, prosperity, security, and sovereignty of the citizens. That's an important word, people. Citizens of this republic. Thank you all.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. And just to add on the Kamala Harris point, I think I speak for everyone at the White House. We encourage Kamala Harris to continue going out and do speaking engagements. You'll hear from the president at 11 o'clock. See you guys later.
A report, the president's planning to fire Mike Waltz. You guys have a response?
Why haven't you nominated a single judge?
Sometimes I wonder why we bother with some of the mainstream press over there. They won't ever bring that common sense. They always are going to push a lie or some ridiculous question. Just get on board with what's happening in this country, even outside of what President Trump's doing, outside of what the White House is doing. But indirectly, what they are doing is helping this country make it safer again, make the border closed. I mean, just the common sense. And that's why I'm glad that there is a new media press briefing that has started at the White House. Great to see that. Man, this mainstream media, they're so, as Rush Limbaugh called them, the lame stream media. Anyway, glad to see so many wins by President Trump. Great accomplishments. This is an RSBN Live trifecta of coverage today, a triple header. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll be live on a different stream for the National Day of Prayer event. That will start at 11 a.m., but we'll be live at 10. We have a number of pastors we'll be interviewing. And that'll be at the Rose Garden from the White House. And then later today at the University of Alabama at 3 o'clock, we'll have our coverage starting then for President Trump's primetime commencement address tonight. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be great. Must-watch streaming right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Before we go, a great sponsor here at the network, All Family Pharmacy. Imagine needing a medication and being told you can't have it, not because it's out of stock, because someone decided you shouldn't have access. It's already have happened, of course, and it could happen again. When others make it complicated, All Family Pharmacy makes it simple. Just the meds you want when you need them without jumping through hoops. So they've got the ivermectin, as you guys see there on the screen, mebendazole, methylene blue, and the kind of meds your local pharmacy won't touch and your doctor won't even mention. But you know they work, of course. So they also have antibiotics, your everyday medications, and over 200 essential medications to keep your home stocked and your family ready. So no insurance, no hassle, just peace of mind. Keep your medicine cabinet ready before you're left without options. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN is the website to go to, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Of course, because being prepared isn't optional anymore, it's about your everyday life. So just check it out there. Every day, we know that having ivermectin or other medications you can get through allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. A great sponsor at Right Side. All right, so we're going to start our coverage at 10 a.m. Eastern. I think maybe getting a teleprompter for these longer scripts might be better, but at the end of the day, we do want to let you know we have great sponsors here at the network. 9:48, Thursday, May 1st. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you in about 12 minutes.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
President Trump is keeping his promises and saving America. And your kids can learn all about it for free with a new Kids Guide to President Trump. This fun guide shows kids all the steps President Trump is taking to put America back on top of the world stage, including building a strong economy, protecting our borders, and negotiating trade deals. It's an exciting way for kids to learn about President Trump's outstanding leadership. Act now and get a free bonus guide, The Courage of the President. Order now at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.